In her dream, Natalie was drowning. She'd been skating with Joe, but had fallen into the river in the fog. The water was freezing and stole her breath away, so she couldn't even scream. Dad, Julie, and Tim were on the bank, but they didn't see her, as the river carried her farther and farther downstream. She tried to swim against the current, but the skates were too heavy. They were dragging her under. It grew darker as the river plunged into a haunted wood, where huge trees reached for her with gnarled fingers and whispered strange secrets into her ear. She woke up with a gasp, drenched in sweat, to find herself tucked into a bed, and the room in darkness. She rolled over with a sigh of relief and reached for her bedside lamp. Just a nightmare, that was all. The lamp wasn't there. In a cold rush, it all came back. The supermarket parking lot, the fog, the needle in her neck. She jerked up and stared around in terror. Her captors had taken her glasses. The room was blurred, but she made out bars across the moonlit window, their shadows falling across unfamiliar furniture, sloping attic ceilings, and a chair in which a small figure slumped, his head resting against the wall. Natalie clutched the blankets to her chin and stared at the boy. Even without her glasses, there was no mistaking that unruly hair, those awful clothes. Without stopping to think, she fought off the blankets and clambered out of bed. "You little slime bag!" she yelled, thumping him. "You deliberately tripped me!" The boy jerked away and jumped off the chair, arms over his head. "No, don't get up! He took your—" Natalie's fury died in a flood of embarrassment, confusion, and fear. Sometimes while she'd slept, her jeans and windbreaker had been replaced by a thin cotton shift that barely came to her knees. She grabbed the blanket she'd just discarded and wrapped it tightly around herself. "Close," the boy finished, staring fixedly at his feet. "It wasn't my fault. Don't hurt me, please." Did he really think she was going to hurt him? Like this? Movement had revived all the bruises she'd suffered in the parking lot when she fell. Her legs were wobbly, her ankles stiff, her mouth felt like sandpaper. She was standing on bare boards, freezing air whispering up the back of her legs. There was no sign of a radiator. She shivered and looked around more carefully. Ancient chests of dark wood, a couple of cupboards, no rug, just the one chair. The door had been cut at an angle to fit the sloping ceiling and was firmly closed. "Where am I?" she whispered. "Who are you? Why have you brought me here?" She pulled the blanket closer, tiptoed to the window, and squinted through the bars. Everything outside seemed blurred by rippling silver, like trying to see through frosted glass. But she made out a crumbling wall, smothered in ivy, a garden choked with brambles, high iron gates, black trees losing their leaves. "The wood," she whispered, remembering her dream. "We're in Unicorn Wood, aren't we?" Electric light suddenly flooded the room, making Natalie jump. Somehow she'd expected candles. The light brought her fully awake. She sprang past the boy and made a dash for the door. It was locked. She rattled the handle, tears in her eyes, then took a deep breath and turned back to the boy. "Let me out," she said. "Please." The boy stood awkwardly by the wall, his hair brushing the low ceiling, watching her. "Can't," he said simply. "It's bolted on the outside, and I'm not supposed to tell you where you are." Was he a prisoner too, then? Her arms were a rash of goosebumps. She couldn't think straight. She returned to the bed and tucked the covers around her cold feet. "Don't you ever wash?" she said, uncomfortable with the way he was looking at her. "Those clothes look like they've come out of trash." The boy rubbed his elbows and said nothing. Natalie sighed. At least he had clothes. She tried again. "Look, I'm thirsty and my head hurts. I don't understand any of this. Can you just tell me what you want? If you kidnap me, you've got the wrong person. My dad hasn't got any money. He hasn't even got a job, not anymore. And all Julie's money goes to buy food." She squinted at the boy. "What's your name? What school do you go to?" The boy chewed his lip. "Promise you won't laugh?" The last thing Natalie felt like doing was laughing, but she said, "Promise." "My name's Merlin, and I don't go to school. I've got my computer instead, and Carta, and lots of other stuff. Father gives me lessons in spellcasting. Least he used to before he started all this Earthhaven business." In spite of everything, Natalie spluttered. "Merlin? As in the great wizard, you mean?" He colored. "You said you wouldn't laugh. It's a joke of my father's, 'cause I'm so useless. We're sort of like wizards, you see, even if we don't have the powers of the Earthhaven spell mages. But we still keep familiars, and most of us use their names like in the old days. When I was little, Father got me a real Merlin and made me take it out into the forest so we could bond." He gave her a hesitant look. "It's a kind of hawk. I know what a Merlin is. I'm not stupid." "Sorry. Then you know a Merlin's much smaller than a goshawk, which is what Father has for his familiar. But its claws are just as sharp. I was scared and let it go, so he bonded me with a mouse instead. I think that was supposed to be a joke, too, because I play with my computer so much. It's got a plastic mouse, see? Catching her expression, he rushed on. Of course you probably know lots about computers if you go to school, but I don't care. I'd much rather have a mouse than a silly bird anyways. He's called Red-Eye. The boy's face softened, but his smile soon disappeared. I'm supposed to show him to you. Only Father still got him locked in the cellar. Natalie shifted uneasily on the bed, and his spring-poinged Merlin was obviously as crazy as the rest of his family. The blonde woman who'd stuck the needle in her neck must be his mother. With parents like that, she'd be pretty weird too. And yet, her own father had reacted strangely when he had seen that wrapper.